So good morning, class. And today we're looking at the research proposal and what a research proposal is, why it's important to do, and how we go about building that research proposal for our cultural research. This document becomes especially important when we are sharing our research in terms of you and someone else or team so that everyone can remain on the same page. But most importantly, this is what serves as a guide to how you go about executing that research process and how, of course, you would arrive at gathering findings, which is where our course stops off. We complete our course by gathering findings. And we will hear more about what makes this research proposal so important when we get into it. But for now, we want to first have an understanding of what this thing is that we call a research proposal. It really is a documented presentation of the idea. So you would recall that we had our first worksheet where we had to arrive at some kind of an idea that we called a draft topic, and from there we would arrive at the title for our research. By this time, when you submit your one page, you should have a title, just like how books have a title, just like how journal articles have a title. um, but now this proposal now seems to carry a step further from that first worksheet. As a matter of fact, this this document is best created or generated after we have completed our one page. So this lecture is coming to you here with the assumption that you would have done your one page. And if it is that you have not done your one page, which you have to by Friday in any event, you are then encouraged to go back to the previous two worksheets and of course using them to begin to construct those three paragraphs. Why does this connect to that one page? Well, if you see at the bottom of the slide there, you will see it expands on three questions. And we've met two of those questions already, which is the what. And the what for us, for a one-page purpose, is broken up into two kinds of what. What referring to what our research ideas about our research topic. And we use the first worksheet to help us to create that paragraph. And then second, what in terms of the aims, in terms of the overarching aim, and then the subsidiary aims. And of course, we used our second worksheet to come up with that. So that in the context of the one page, we would have had two paragraphs already. For the purposes of the research proposal, that question, what, becomes just one of the three. And then our second question is why, which we've already met as well. Why in terms of the problematic, which is the correct terminology used. And we learned that for our one page, we just have to know what that problem statement is and our 4 or 5 factors that make up the problematic altogether. But now, in the case of the research proposal, that why, which we will talk about shortly, becomes expanded, and we will speak about that when we come to that particular slide. And in the third instance now, we need now to give the reader an understanding of how we're going to go about doing that research, so that our research proposal becomes an expansion on our one page, because the idea is that you want to be able to show now that this one page rendering is really representative of a worthwhile project, that you are able to do it competently, and of course that you have the confidence to do so, and that has to do with how you write it up. And this is one of the reasons why we give a template to assist with that, so that that confidence within you can build in terms of how you would go about writing this kind of material when you move on. It is my understanding that you have a similar exercise to do when you do one of the foundation courses, if you've not done it before. And so more than likely, you won't be necessarily quote unquote lost when you come to that course. Is there anyone in the class who has done the course already, that particular foundation course that requires you to do research? Anyone?
Hi, Miss. I'm currently doing it. This is Ariana. I'm currently doing that course. It's science, medicine, and technology.
Ariane, I'm not hearing you very well. Good morning. Can you speak up, please?
Good morning, Miss. It's a
Good morning.
science, medicine, and technology. I'm currently doing that course.
Oh, I don't believe it's that one, but if they have to do it there, okay, fair enough. I somehow thought it was one of the English foundation courses where it very much follows quite close to the letter in terms of what we're doing here. But if it's required there, okay, no problem. But my thing is though, is that if you've done something like this already, you should be comfortable here in terms of developing some of the stages. Cultural research goes a little different from science med. I believe for them it may have what they would call a hypothesis, and we work with a research question. But certainly, if you do this first before you go on then to do the other foundation course, which is the, I believe it's an English foundation course, you would find a lot of similarities and you should be quite comfortable. More certainly, you will be comfortable when you get to final year, if it is whether you choose to do festival project or you choose to do Caribbean studies, the final year thesis. But my point is, class, why I make reference to those other courses is that I want for you to understand that what we are teaching you here is relatively standard in terms of how one goes about developing research. And so, whilst for your one page, you would have learned of the what, why, it's really important for you to keep these three questions in mind because this now is the standard in terms of a research proposal. And I might have indicated to you before that sometimes, especially at the graduate level, this is what the one page has to entail. Now, at your stage, it would really be a challenge to ask of you to understand how you're going to go about doing something when you are now trying to make sense of what and why in the first instance. And that is why the one page is tweaked in that way. But most certainly, at the stage of the proposal, one should be able to competently explain what your research is about, why is this research important to do, and how you will go about doing that research. Any questions or comments at this time? Is everyone hearing me well?
Yeah, Miss, we hear you.
Okay, good.
Yes, Miss.
Okay, so let's find out what this research proposal contains or entails. So one can see it as having these broad areas. So it sets out the broad topic you would like to research. And again, one can be guided by what you would have developed in your first worksheet to help you to create that paragraph or that section. And when you take a peek at the template and you will see what the template looks like so you will know. Because in every section of the template, you are told how much you should write, whether it's a page or a paragraph or X amount of words or what have you. It also, that proposal details what the research was set out to achieve. And of course, this is where we talk about our aims and objectives, or as we've been taught, our broad aim or overarching aim, and then of course our subsidiary aims or subsidiary objectives. And we go to our worksheet 2 for that. But then now, as I said, it outlines how you will go about researching it. And that is what we call methodology. In next week's class, I believe we will learn about methodology before we go on to looking at annotated. And the reason why we will treat with methodology first is because we also want, as soon as we possibly can, to start going out into the field. And in this instance, our field is the internet. So that as much time as you have out there gathering your findings is the better for you. So this proposal, though, asks of you to report on how you're going to go about doing that. Not to say what you have found out. We've not reached there yet. We have time for that. But rather how you will go about gathering that research when that particular time comes. And the reason why that is necessary here at this stage is that so the examiner or the researcher or the supervisor, your lead researcher, knows that what you have chosen, you are appropriately matching it to a research approach. In our case, we're online. So we are learning some slightly different methodologies this time. We will still learn about survey research, as they call it, but we also want to learn about online ethnography and online anthropology, right? So that when we do the methodology lecture in terms of an overview, that would be enough for us to be able to fit into our research proposal which one of those things we're going to be doing, but it must fit or match the topic that you have chosen or the research idea that you've chosen. The proposal also asks of you to outline how long you will take, how you would undertake it within the time available, sorry, and that is your plan. So that is like to say in this section we'll do this section we'll do that, and so on and so forth. Now, we are going up to findings, and so chances are your template carries you up to that point to say, this is how you're going to arrange your actual document when that time comes. And then it also asks of you to just give a small paragraph on your expected outcomes. And expected outcomes, that is not to say you are going to predict that what will happen, because remember now, this is why we have the research to do, but rather to say what difference you think gathering this information is going to make. So is it going to enlighten us on a particular thing? Is it going to set the record straight where something is concerned? Is it going to provide valuable information that we didn't have before? So for example, let's say we were doing research, like I did some research during the COVID period to find out how COVID was impacting on people operating in the festival economy. And so one of my expected outcomes was to be able to understand the fallout in terms of money, in terms of revenue, and as well as to understand what needs the sector had at that point in time on account of COVID. So that is what we mean when we talk about being able to understand expected outcomes or potential outcomes to come out of the work. Not that we are saying what the findings are trying to predict, because then, of course, now we will be making the work invalid, but rather to be able to say maybe one or two things as to what we hope to achieve by carrying out this piece of research. I'll pause there for questions. Any questions or comments? If there are none, do let me know so I can continue. Okay, so let me ask a question about that before we go further. Is Kwazi here with us? So Kwazi, based on the research that you all are doing, and based on what I've just said there, what is possibly an expected outcome of that research? Is Kwazi here, or Kwazi just here in body but not spirit? Yes,
Yes, Miss, I hear.
yes. So,
Um, God.
yes,
Miss,
I'm hearing you.
Miss, do me this.
Why? What happened? Where you're
Shoot.
supposed to be in class, you know. This is how I know if we in class or not. And by the way, you recorded, eh?
Miss, I don't want to get the wrong answer on the recording.
No, I would guide you. Why you would think there are no wrong answers in this class? I don't teach math. Yes, take a stab at it. Based on your research that you're doing, what you think would be an expected outcome? Man, this easy. There's a slam dunk. I'm looking for my list to see who's your partner again, because you know I always mix it up.
Anna
Oh,
Street.
Anna Shooter. Where's
Right.
Anna Shooter? You hear? Help him now,
Yes,
Anna
miss.
Shooter. I don't know
Miss, I
why he's so
thinking.
worried. Come, tell me, based on the research that you're all doing, what you think would be an expected outcome based on the example I just gave? You all want me to repeat my example?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
yeah, miss. Repeat your example so I could think.
All right. I'll giving you a little time. I'm feeling like I'm in a game show right now. Okay. So I said that I did some research over the initial COVID period, the lockdown, to get a sense of the impact that COVID had or is having on persons who operate in the festival economy across the Caribbean. And so one of my expected outcomes was to be able to understand revenue loss, to determine the level of revenue loss and to determine whether new revenue streams were being pursued during the COVID period. Another one was to determine whether there were new needs um, that the sector had on account of COVID. Do you see? So I did not say that my expected outcome was to say, well, I expect to find out that the COVID has caused people to lose hundreds and thousands of dollars, but rather to discern what was the extent of loss, and the expected outcome was whether or not new revenue streams were being pursued. So do you understand now? And it's a matter of how you word it, you see. So what
Yeah,
will be an expected outcome now of the work that you all are doing on the, remind me of the name of the tradition within the Heritage Festival, right?
yeah. It will be the Salaka feast.
Right. So what is the expected outcome then?
The expected outcome of the research would probably be to know why the Salaka feast is practiced still in Tobago Heritage Festival, I guess.
So it's still being practiced. I know you say it was dying out.
Yes, it's still being practiced.
Right. So why? What else, Anna Shrita? That's kind of one. I thought you would have gone another direction. Anything else, Anna Shrita?
Miss, could it be to discover the relevance it serves to persons in Tobago?
Yes, yes, yes. So between what you and Kwasi say, you see, I have one already. Correct. That's right. Or to understand, yes, to understand its relevance still in these times. Does everybody understand? Ariana, you want to give it a start based on what y'all are doing? What do you think would be an expected outcome? And the reason why I'm doing this now is that if one can understand that light at the end of the rainbow, it also builds the confidence in terms of what you are pursuing. Because you know that at the end of the day, I'm going through all of these stages because that is an expected outcome. I think I have something of substance or relevance to give to my community or my society. And this is how research becomes alive then. And this is why in cultural research, we don't encourage you all to pursue research topics that, yes, it is okay, but rather that you would pursue research topics that can indeed make a difference to your community and those within your immediate society. Yes, Ariana, do you want to give it a try?
Um, okay, so I believe that my research would, well, our research would, I should say, would try to set out, bring awareness
Mm-hmm.
to dancers or to um a lot of cultural people, I should say, who are unaware of what is going on in the school system.
Mm-hmm.
And
That.
also,
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening, miss.
Yes, no, go ahead. That's not bad. Go ahead.
Well, I have to bring awareness and also to possibly solve a problem. Um, if 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 I should say taken up by the board, taken up by the ministry to implement a lot more, to take cultural things that are belong to us
Mm-hmm.
a lot more seriously, just as they would take the national instrument seriously, they will take the other cultural element, I should say icons, elements seriously within the
Mm-hmm.
art form, within the
within the
perform,
school curriculum, I suppose.
and yes, and really interjected into the school curriculum.
Right. Okay. So I think we've gotten two pretty good examples from two different pieces of research. You see? So this is what we're talking about when we say that that proposal, when you're coming down to the end of it, you should be able to articulate that. If one does not have a sense of that class, you kind of will be muddying, you're just going along in the dark. I'm sure even as these two groups have tried to articulate it, you'll realize like a kind of light went off in your mind. For the other groups, you certainly, as we go along here, you can try it. You should try it because you will need to write it in any event. But I am guaranteeing you that the sooner you do that, you are going to find yourself even more confidently going along this research process because you have a sense of what you are trying to achieve, what is the outcome that you're trying to get out of it based on the aims and the objectives that you would have already set out. Everybody understands that?
Yeah, miss.
Okay.
Excuse me, I have a question before we
Sure,
move
go
on.
ahead. Yes, go ahead.
So I'm seeing here that we have from previous notes that I would have taken, we have purpose and objectives, which
Mm-hmm.
and we also have the subsidiary aims, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The difference between that and
Mm-hmm.
cultural, what we're doing now. Because
Right.
yeah,
Right. That's a very good question. So one is about what you're going to be doing to be able to answer the research question. That is your overarching aims and your objectives. This one is about what you hope to get out of it now. Okay, so you could have an objective of wanting to play mass, okay? But the outcome is, and you would do this series of things to be able to do that. But the expected outcome now is to have a good time. Do you understand the difference? So one is an
yes, miss.
outcome. Yes, yes. Always think of these things in practical ways. This is how I write. I always try to think of a simple everyday example. And then based on that, however my mind would have worked to arrive at it, I then do the same thing for whatever it is that I am trying to analyze. So one is an actual thing that we must engage in. This is why we call it an aim. That is why it starts with to this or to that. But then outcome now is what we want to get out of it, what will be derived from it. Everybody understands that? I need to see a show of hands so
Yeah,
I will know
miss.
everybody's clear on that.
No play.
Yes, very good. Excellent. I'm happy. Always ask the questions. There's no wrong answer, Quasi, and there are no wrong or stupid questions here. You'd be surprised. Yes. So, why do we need an RP? I think we already have an idea of this in a sense based on our discussion so far. But, it's important that we still go through it in the sense that we may not have hit upon each one of these with clarity. So we know of the first one already here in this corner here to convince others that we have a worthwhile research project because this would have been mentioned very early on in the lecture. I believe on the first slide, we would have talked about this because this is one of the ways in which we get a lot of marks. Normally, in a course dealing with research methods, you don't usually get a mark for your one page, but y'all are in first year, and every little step you take, it should be acknowledged and somehow given some kind of value. Usually, when someone is embarking on a course such as this, their first set of marks normally come from the research proposal stage. And so that research proposal becomes very important to convincing your lecturer or whoever the lead researchers that you are indeed doing something. You are indeed doing something that is worthwhile, and the way in which you have set it up makes sense. You also use the research proposal to show that the problem is significant and worthy of study. What aspect of what we've done so far, what element that we have learned about so far that will help us to convince the reader of this, to show that the problem is significant and worthy of study? What have we been doing so far that would allow us to do that? Don't all rush at once. Come on, this is quite easy. What have we learned so far? Come on, class, you have to pay attention. Don't have on your class but not be in class. Trust me, we will see it in the work when you have to submit. What what have we done so far? Let me call a name. Tennille, where are you? What have we done so far that allows for us to show that the problem is significant and worthy of study? Where is everybody today? Carlene? Okay. Yes.
Good morning,
Hi,
Miss.
Miss. You hear
Yes.
me?
Good morning. Yes, I'm hearing you now. Now, if y'all don't be in class in full, I'll stop posting the recordings. Huh? The recordings are supposed to be there to assist you. As a matter of fact, the university say only have to be there a day. But I leave them up because I feel that it is in your better interest that you can go back and refer to it. But that does not mean that you're not in class. You have to be in class because my classes are all very interactive. So when you are not there, trust and believe everything you may not necessarily understand when you go back to the recording, even though it's all there recorded. Sometimes I do pause the recording. So please, please try and stay focused. So tell me, what have we done so far that allows for us to show that the problem is significant and worthy of study? Anyone remembers?
Miss, is it the problem statement?
Yes, the problematique as a whole, correct. That's correct. So the problematique as a whole is what would allow us to show that the problem is significant and worthy of study. Remember, when we get to the research proposal stage now, that paragraph that we would have written in the one page is now expanded on. And so this is where in the research proposal document, you will take each one of those contributing factors and you make a paragraph. And so with the research with the problem statement, along with an explanation of the contributing factors, all of that together is what allows then for us to show that this problem that we are trying to examine is worthy of examination. Everybody understands that?
Yeah, Miss.
Right? The third reason of using the RP is to show that the chosen approach can yield useful results. And I would have mentioned this not too long ago when I said that this is where we show that whatever is the approach we're taking, and that is within the context of the methodology, whatever is the approach that we're taking is the most appropriate one for what we are going to be examining. So, for example, from my research that I did looking at the stakeholders in the festival economy, the approach that I use, which is one that we will learn about, is the survey research approach. It would not have made sense for me to use online or virtual ethnography or virtual observation. That would not have made sense simply because what I wanted to find out about did not require me to go into any chat room to observe anything, but rather to get some surveys and interviews done that would have then yielded the information that I needed, what we call the findings, to be able to answer my research question. So the RP is used then to be able to show when you say this is the approach that I'm using and you explain what that approach is and why, and we learn about that. That is to convince whoever is reading it that you have well thought this out and that what you're choosing as a means of going about getting your answers is the best way to do it for this particular research topic that you have chosen. And in doing one, two, and three, you are able to achieve the fourth reason for having a research proposal, which is that it you are able then to show other persons that you are competent. You are competent to carry out that research endeavor. And that is normally mapped out in your research plan. Step A, doing this, step B, step C, and so on and so forth. And again, the template will have it structured in a way that guides you as to how you will map that out. And so these are the 4 key reasons why we would have a research proposal. And each of the reasons, if you realize, represents a significant part of what we are learning to do right now. So that you also now have an understanding of why it is you're being asked to build these particular components that make up what we call the cultural research process. So let us look now at what are the broad elements of a research proposal. Again, class, remember, you have a template that you will be completing. And so what I am showing you here is just an overview that you have a sense when you look into the template, how those components that you have to fill out map back onto this. And when I say map back onto this, this is just so you have an overall sense of what a research proposal document is supposed to have, if it is that you've not ever seen one before or you've not had to work with one before. Okay, so your title is important, your abstract. Does anyone know what is an abstract? Has anyone ever heard of the term abstract? Can I
No,
have a
explain.
right? So an abstract is another word for summary. It is a short paragraph that indicates what was actually done in the document. It is placed at the front of the document, but it is always written after you have completed the document. And the reason for that is because you are writing in that short paragraph what is contained in the document. So you can't write it before because you don't know what you're going to be writing inside there as yet. And so the abstract, although it is placed at the front of the document, it is actually constructed after you have completed your research proposal. Everybody understands that? And you can look up abstract for cultural research to get some examples. I am encouraging you all to do so. You do a few searches so that you get a handle, you get a feel of what an abstract looks like. Okay, so that is one of the pieces of homework that you have to do. So I shouldn't be saying abstracts that looking a little strange because you have the internet at your disposal. So look up abstract, examples of abstracts for cultural research, right? And you will get a sense of what an abstract looks like, how it's structured, how many words, usually no more than 150 words. And this is something that you would need not only for this course, you will meet other courses where you are required to construct an abstract for your project or your paper, okay?
Okay, miss.
After the abstract comes the table of contents. And this is something now that is generated by your word, as we call word processing software, by your word. Okay, so you again now, if you're not sure how to do it, Google it, find out how to generate table contents in Word. So this is not something that you are going to do manually. And the reason why is because sometimes it throws off the document. The good thing about that is that you are submitting soft copy. So it's not a case where I would see, as has happened in the past sometimes, where table of contents written in and all kinds of things. So thank God we will eliminate that. But to ensure that your table of contents looks as professional as the rest of your document, your table of contents now can be generated by Word. For the research proposal, luckily that has been done for you already. but you would have to do it for yourself when you come to submit your field research report. I don't believe that that one has a template. That is left up to you to construct based on the guidelines there. And so what you will find yourself having to insert it would be your page numbers, I believe, depending on where, when you type your stuff, where your information falls. But your table of contents, again, for other courses that you may have, should be something that you generate using the software. There's a way in which it can be done quite automatically. Then after that is where you have your introduction. And within that introduction now, you will see that that introduction takes up what would have been the first two paragraphs of your one page. You notice that, class? This is what you're going to basically be submitting on part of what, sorry, I should say, you will be submitting on Friday, right? So in the research proposal now, those two paragraphs now fall under your introduction as representing your what, and of course titled as your introduction. After that, you have why, which is, as we just discussed, your problemati. This is where, after that, you place your major research questions, your minor research questions, and your minor research questions should be the same amount of subsidiary aims you have. You should have minor research questions because your subsidiary aims basically are used to create your minor research questions. You just turn them into questions, just as you would have done with your major research question. Does everybody remember when we did that?
Yeah, Miss.
Right. So you would remember when we constructed our major research queue, we used our overarching aim to do that. And so those subsidiary aims that we have now, you would take those now and you would turn them into questions now. And that is what makes up our minor research questions. Then we have our annotated, and we will learn that 2 weeks from now. I'm not going to say much about that for now, but that is a special way in which we construct a bibliography to put within a proposal. And we will learn that not next class, but the class following. And then we come to our how. This is what we're going to treat with next week, because the sooner we know this, the better for us. And within the research proposal, there is need to have an overview of this. When you have to do your field research report now, this how is then expanded on for the purposes of that particular document. And that is actually going to be the last document that you will be submitting. All right. So your how now falls in there quite nicely after your annotated bibliography. And then you come to a conclusion. And so the research proposal, whilst there are not a lot of sections, you will notice, class, as I said before, every time you do a piece of work, it builds on the other, whatever you might have done before. So the research proposal, if you notice from our previous slides, builds on your one page and all of the work that you would have done up until the last worksheet, which is somewhere here. And so in a sense now, we are now going into the aspect of the course now where we begin now to deal with these elements here. Does everybody understand that?
Miss,
I
can you
think
go say it
that
one more time, please?
Sorry?
Go ahead, Ariana.
no, I was saying the exact same thing you were saying. If she could repeat it one more time, pretty please.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was saying to you all that you would notice from the last slide, yes, you would notice from the last slide that we have done many of these elements already, of course, with the exception of the abstract here. And that every time we do a piece of work, that is used then to build up the other piece of work. All right? And so we are never ever starting from ground zero as we go through the course. And so we would have done this already. And then here now, we would have done up until minor research questions. And so for the remainder of the course, one can easily say this is what we are treating with. And when we come to submit our research proposal, we would have learned how we go about doing these things to be able to submit within the proposal itself. When after the proposal, as I was saying to you before, we will have one other major document to submit, and that is our field research report. And that is where then we would expand on this particular section. For the purpose of the proposal, you are just asked to give an overview, just to say what is the approach that you're doing and why, and what are the research methods and why. But when you come then to that final document called the field work report or the field research report, it is expected then that you would expand on this section called methodology. Everybody understands that now?
Yeah, miss. So you're saying a brief overview for handling in our assignment for Friday. And when we come to methodology, we will expand more on what you're explaining here on the slides.
No, that's not what I'm saying. You already know what it is you're doing for your one page. You're not doing how for your one page. This is for your research proposal. Remember,
Okay.
we are learning research proposal today, right?
Okay.
Everybody's clear on that now? Don't worry, your course outline will be up shortly, so you will be able to see exactly how everything is laid out. Okay, we actually decided to eliminate a component of the coursework because we looked at how the class was progressing, and of course, we would have started university late. And so we made that adjustment. This is why I delayed in putting up the course outline. I don't ever put anything there that I know we won't cover. So I made some adjustments in a particular way to ensure that you would still learn how to competently do research and at the same time that you're not overwhelmed. You see? So that, as I was saying before, this part here, just to reiterate so that you have that clarity, this, when you come to the research proposal, you will be doing an overview of this. But then that final document that you will have to submit, which is called the field research report or the field work report, either term is used, this is where then you would expand on this methodology here. That is where you would give further details on that because that particular document is asking you then to zero in on what you actually did when you were in the field. Everybody understands that now?
Yes,
Miss,
miss.
I understand that,
Mm-hmm.
but in relation to the one page is what I'm not understanding.
In terms of what part?
Our one page is supposed to be exactly the problematic, not right?
Your one page is what, why, and your research question.
Okay.
You see? All right, everybody's clear on that now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, now clear.
Okay. Okay. So that the rest of this is quite it's self-explanatory in the sense that I use the remainder of the lecture to go through in detail, the slide, sorry, to go through in detail what are some of these elements. And so everything here, this is not that I have to teach this per se, but this is more as a guide for you to help you then to construct those sections of the template because of the fact that you have it as a template and you're not writing it from scratch. This really serves as a guide to aid with what is already in the template. So at this stage, I will want to unshare the screen, remove this, and I would want to put up now the template for the proposal that you would have an idea of what that looks like. Okay, class? And you would see basically that what I have here is what then is reflected in the template. Does everybody understand? Is everybody seeing the screen of the template?
Yeah, miss.
Yes, miss.
Okay, let me see if I can. So as I said to you before, it's a Word document.
Miss, I just saw this.
Rest. I have already posted it
Yeah,
up.
yes, I see.
Yes. So that if you can look here, or you can certainly pull it up for yourself. Um, just so that you can be familiar. Right. How a template works is you would see you will get some instructions. When you are done, delete all instructions, all written in blue from your proposal. So where you see here, put your names. When you click on this, you notice it allows you to go inside there. You put your names there, right? So you would say, so for example, I could do that, and you type in your names there, and then of course you highlight this, and you can remove that from there. Everybody understands that? You would then click back in the body. I'm sure you all know how to manipulate your Word, right? Place your initials next to your major. So if you're carnival studies, so JT would come here. If you're communications, that whichever one of these, you put your initials so we know, right? Then you put your full name and addresses. So everything you basically follow. So this has a column break here. So if you notice, that just spilled over there. Whatever, if you have an extra line, you have to delete so that it comes back and it falls back in neatly to how the document is. Is everybody understanding that? Very simple. A template is basically that all you have to do is fill in the blanks. No, you have to sign. So that means you all have to generate your electronic signatures that you can place here because it must be signed, because that is how we know that you have agreed that you've not plagiarized and you understand the purpose of what you're doing, the exercise. So you will notice, class, I had already put in this because this is where it falls right now. But then let's say when you type in your stuff, it means that the page numbers will shift. So you will just come in here, highlight, delete, and put the correct page number for when you have completed your section. So just as I have in the PowerPoint, you will notice it has the same sections here. All right, there's one. I think I'm going to make one edit. So I am going to delete that particular proposal I have there, and I will re-upload it shortly. I'm seeing one thing that has to change here that you won't be doing. This is the component of coursework that we've taken out. So I will remove this from here because you won't be doing this. Okay? So I will take that out and then I will reload the document for you. All right. And so if you notice, all of these are guidelines to help you to be able to develop the document. So what I will do, class, something tells me that whilst we've been kind of doing work on our one page, we ain't kind of really do work on our one page. Am I correct or not?
Okay.
Right. So
Right.
I am going to allow for this particular tutorial at this time. We will be going into our tutorial shortly. I'm going to allow you the time. I will be around. I am actually letting you stay online to work, but I'm not going to give a formal tutorial, right? And I want you all to begin to work on your one page. All right, so we have from now, I believe everybody should be off, so it means that we can move from here straight into our tutorial that we would finish at 1 o'clock instead of restarting back at 1 to finish at 2. Is that fair?
Yes, yes.
All right, so I'm asking you to work with your partner. So let me just remove the proposal. I will tweak that and put it back up. But you are beginning to work on your one page, which is due for Friday. So you're taking the time to work on that. I'm asking that you will pull up your worksheets. You should have done enough work. If you know that some parts are shaky, of course, this is where now you're going to brainstorm and work on that and begin to construct your paragraphs. It is not a difficult exercise, but of course, we must give it some time. So I am going to give you that time that you can work on that now. All right, so I am going to close the recording here for now and allow for you all to begin working on that.